Welcome to another episode of Shade and Shit Talking. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you for tuning in. Now, I missed last week due to some unfortunate circumstances beyond my control, so I'm very happy to be here with you guys to rant and rave and do my thing. So, there has been a lot of things that went on this past week that I plan on covering throughout this episode. So I hope you stick around to listen, take it in, give me your opinion, like or dislike, whatever. And the one main thing that I want to talk about, or really start with, is this week, August 28th. We acknowledge, we don't celebrate because it's nothing celebratory about it, but we acknowledge the untimely death, the murder actually, of 14-year-old Emmitt Till. Now, most of us know the story, the situation, the ramifications of it, but I'm doing it anyway. And for those of us, black people who may have lived in a cave or under a rock, all of their lives and not familiar with the story. Or for those of you, non-black people, white, Hispanic, Italian, Asian, what have you, that happens to come across this podcast, I am going to give you a rundown of the story before I, give my opinion on other things about it. So, for those of you who know the story, if I'm factually incorrect somewhere, please don't hesitate to hit me up and correct me, because no one's above reproach. So, let me just start from the beginning. His name is Emmitt Louis Till, and he was born July 25th, 1941 in Chicago, Illinois, and he died August 28th, 1955 in Money, Mississippi. 14 years old. He was an African-American male teenager whose murder was the catalyst of the emerging civil rights movement, and I'll touch on that a little later too. Anyways, he was born to two working-class parents, south side of Chicago, and during the summer when he barely turned 14 years old, he took a trip to Mississippi to spend the summer with his relatives. Now, the story goes that his mother had warned him to be careful because, she knew that whites in the South did and would react violently to different types of behavior that may have been more acceptable up north. Now, he arrived on August 21st, 1955. He stayed with his uncle, great uncle, by the name of Moses Wright, who was a sharecropper. And, he was working the fields with his uncle and his cousins and so on and so forth. Well, on the 24th of August, they went to a local grocery store after working in the field. Now, the actual accounts of what happened varies depending on who was asked. Of course, the white guys who did it have their own version. So did the white woman who lied on him, which I'll get into that a little later too. Has her version, and of course, his family has their own version, which I'm more apt to believe because that's how shit was in the South back then. So anyway, some witnesses stated that one of the boys had dared Emmitt to talk to this woman by the name of Carolyn Bryant, and it was reported that he whistled at her, he touched her hand or her waist or whatever, and he flirted with this woman as he was leaving the store. Whatever he did, which I seriously doubt was anything, which I know was nothing, he didn't deserve what happened to him. So, anyways, in the early morning of July 28th, this woman's husband, a Roy Bryant, and her half brother or whoever he was, a guy by the name of J.W. Milam, they forced their way into Mr. Wright's home at gunpoint, and they kidnapped Emmitt Till. This was witnessed by Till's whole family. Now, when they abducted him, they took him off and they beat him mercilessly, pistol whipped him. They beat him to the point of parts of his skull was missing. Just take that in for a second. He was beat until parts of his skull was fucking missing. They gouged out one of his eyes, and after that, they took him to the Tallahatchie River, and they shot him in the head. Now they beat him to within an inch of his life, and then shot him in the head. Now, to add even more insult to that, they tied him up to a metal cotton gin fan and with barbed wire, and they dumped his corpse into the river. So the next day, his uncle went to the police and reported the kidnapping, and Bryant and Milam both were arrested on the following day. Now they didn't discover Emmitt's body until the 31st, and you've all seen the pictures. If you haven't seen the pictures, just Google it. Google is your friend. For those of you who may not know the story, Google it. But his face was so unrecognizable. I mean, it's disturbing just to even talk about it, and I'm envisioning this right now as I talk about it. But he was so badly beaten that the only positive identification that they made was a ring, a monogram ring that he had on that belonged to his father. And so just a quick recap. He came to Mississippi on the 21st, and he was dead in a week. 1 week. And that's, that's fucked up. So now that they were arrested, their trial began on September 19th, 1955. And the jury was 12 white men, no women, no blacks, because, black people were not considered people then, and even still today in some instances. And, women were property as well to white men. So 12 white men were on the jury, and after 4 days of testimony and a little more than an hour of deliberation, they acquitted Bryant and Milam of all charges, which that was no surprise by anybody. Now, to add even more insult to what they did to this young man and his family, due to the law of double jeopardy, those two were protected from further prosecution. So what did they do? Well, they were paid to do an interview and give their story to a magazine, a magazine called Look. And if you have time, Google that and read that shit. It's some straight up bullshit. As a matter of fact, if I can, I'll post a link in the description. But I'm gonna give you a small excerpt of what was said in this interview, and it's fucking ridiculous. But again, those were the times that black people were forced to live in. Now, in this interview, this raw, unremorseful interview, one of the guys, I believe the husband, said that they had intended only to beat, Emmitt, but then they decided to kill him when he showed no fear and refused to grovel. And in reading that part, it kind of made me think about, the things that's going on today and how there is a real fear of the strength and power of black men. Not those, those idiots, but real black men who ain't going. There's real fear in that. There's real fear in the power that we possess and the things that we are capable of doing. So don't forget that, there is strength within you that they fear. But anyways, let me just give you this disturbing fucking quote. This was from the brother-in-law, J.W. Milam. And I quote, "Well, what else could we do? He was hopeless. I'm no bully. I never heard a nigger in my life. I like niggers in their place. I know how to work them. But I just decided it was time a few people got put on notice. As long as I live and can do anything about it, niggers are going to stay in their place," unquote. Now I want you to, replay that and just let that shit play over and over in your head and just think about it. How much different does he sound today than some of the shit that we hear and deal with now? That quote right there is very, very disturbing. Very, very, I'm at a loss for words right now to what to call it other than fucked up. But, that's the times again. Now, as I said earlier, his death and, his mother decided to not close his casket. She decided to have an open casket for the tens of thousands of people that viewed his body when they took him home to Chicago. And, that infamous picture was displayed, in Jet magazine for the world to see. And it showed, it showed the callousness. It showed the evil. It showed the whole world the sheer brutality, the sheer lack of compassion and soul that these white people possessed. It showed the world. And what it also did, it provoked a national outrage, and he became a powerful catalyst in the civil rights movement. Just like soon after that, Rosa Parks refused, to give up her seat on the bus. Just a few months later, she showed the potential of defiance. Because, Emmitt Till's death, it warned them of a bleak future without defiance. And, even now, 63 years later, at a time where race relations are, right again at the forefront of America's mind, of the media, his name is still invoked as a reminder of the worst consequences of ignoring the problem. And it still is a problem. It's a problem, a serious problem. And as I think about it, the lady who lied on him Carolyn Bryant, there are so many more like her right now in this world. And we've seen them all, you know, from the permit patties to the one calling the police on the little girl with the water, selling the water, from you know, the ones who called about the black kids at the pool, to the one who called the police about the black lady living in the common areas. They are all this Carolyn lady. I mean, you know, she indeed she lied on Emmitt Till. It came out, you know, that she, you know, spoke to a biographer, and, you know, she pretty much admitted that he did absolutely none of the things that she said he did. None. And, you know, she made this confession, I guess, in her old age, I don't know, guilt. You know, who knows why? But, you know, she said that, you know, well, let me tell you exactly what she said, you know, in her deposition or when she testified. She was 21 at the time, and the defense attorney asked her, just what did he say when he grabbed your hand? And these are her direct quotes. He said, "How about a date, baby?" She said that she pulled away from him, and moments later he caught her at the cash register, grasping her around the waist with both hands and pulling her toward him. And then he went on to say, "What's the matter, baby? Can't you take it? You don't need to be afraid of me." And she claimed that he used an obscenity and mentioned something about he had done this with white women before. So anyways, you know, she went on to later say that, you know, she lied about everything, and her quote was, you know, no matter what he did, he didn't deserve to die that way, which is true. He also didn't deserve to be lied on by a conniving bitch, especially knowing the times that they were living in. So, you know, when I say, you know, this Carolyn lady she's the blueprint, or she's one of the parts of the blueprint that they follow. She is the gold standard of the power of persuasion, the power of destruction in white women's tears. And if what I said you don't like, I don't care. Don't at me. Don't argue with me. Argue with your mama. Because there is power in white women's tears. We've seen it a million times. We've seen it. Rosewood. We've seen it. Tulsa, Black Wall Street. We've seen it. George Stinney, another 14-year-old who was wrongfully accused and murdered, although it was quote unquote legal. We've seen it. So again, you don't like it, fuck it. Don't at me. Because there's nothing you can say or do that will change my mind. So, you know, I said all of that, you know, to say this to my people. We have to be careful. We have to be mindful of those around us, because in the blink of an eye, a lie can get us killed. And what happened then is going on today, albeit in a different method, but it's still murder. And a lot of it stems from a lie. And 95% of those lies are the crocodile tears of white women. And it's a shame that something that happened 63 years ago is still very, very relevant today. To the point of that story can almost damn near be told today. And it wouldn't be shocking. So I want to close by imploring you all to understand that the reality is that in 2018, what happened to Emmitt can happen to you, can happen to me, can happen to any of our kids. So think for a moment and understand the magnitude of what we're fighting for and who we're fighting against. Those who came before us, they paid a hefty price, and it's our duty and moral responsibility to stand up. Rest in power, Emmitt Till. First and foremost, R.I.P. to Senator John McCain of Arizona. Now listen, you may not have to, agree with his policies or agree with some of the things that he said. And frankly, I didn't really care for him that much and didn't agree with a lot of what he said. But I do respect him for some of the things that he did. One of the most notable things he did was, correcting the lady while he was campaigning, calling Obama an Arab and all of that. But he did it and kind of backhanded trash Arab people, by kind of saying that they weren't good men, but whatever. Now, as far as his policies go, I didn't agree with a lot of them, but he did what he thought was best for the country, which I do respect. And also what I really do respect is the fact that this man in his dying days, last 2 days, went out in a blaze of glory telling Trump to kiss his ass. Man, look, you have to really hate a motherfucker to make sure you put out that this nigga is not invited to your funeral 2 days before you getting ready to goddamn go to the other side. Seriously. I mean, John McCain pretty much came out, after he personally called Obama to eulogize him. This nigga came out and was like, basically to Trump and his staff, fuck Trump, fuck his staff, fuck him as an organization, as a record label, and an administration. And if you down with them, fuck you too. Man, you really gotta respect that shit. I know I do. And you know who else I respect? John McCain's mama. Like, seriously, John McCain old as hell, and here she is still going at 100 and something years old, 106, 104, something like that. And she traveled cross country back and forth with his body. That's some amazing shit, man. I hope to make it that far. I ain't lying. That's some tough shit. But anyways, shout out again to John McCain. Thanks for your service to your country. You more of a hero and a patriot than that orange bastard would ever be. Now we here at Black with No Chaser, we are all about representation. Because representation does matter, whether it's television, whether it's sports, music, movies, whatever. Teachers. We talked about that in another podcast. Shout out to all the black male teachers, black teachers, period, by the way. But like I said, representation matters. So with that being said, people in the state of Maryland, people in the state of Georgia, people in the state of Florida, get y'all asses out and vote. Because there really can be a blue wave, hitting the House, the Senate, the gubernatorial seats. Get out and vote. In Maryland, you have Ben Jealous, who's a civil rights activist. He's a Democratic candidate for mayor of Maryland. And frankly, they need somebody who care about black people, because nobody gives a fuck about Baltimore, it seems. You know, those schools, black schools, seriously are fighting for supplies. Hell, they fighting for heat last winter. So shout out to him. Get out there and vote, Maryland. Elect somebody that gives a damn. Then you have Georgia. And we've talked about Miss Stacey Abrams before. Very, very, very intelligent, hardworking black woman, who I think will do great things, not only for Georgia, but, you know, for the nation as a whole, because representation matters. So, state of Georgia, get out there and vote. Put this lady in. She will make history. History. We had Obama make history. Let's make history with a black woman. That's Miss Stacey Abrams. Georgia, get out and vote. Now, Florida, you have the Tallahassee mayor and the Democratic candidate, Mr. Andrew Gillum. He, in a shocker of a race, he defeated the front runner, former Representative Gwen Graham, I believe, for the Democratic spot. So, in the state of Florida, y'all got so much goddamn going on that's so anti-black that you really need this shit. You really need it. So make sure you get out there and vote for this man. Put him in office, because he's going against a Trump-style, Trump-loving asshole who don't give a fuck about you, don't give a fuck about me, don't give a fuck about the Cubans, Latinas, any Mexicans. He wants a wall, goddamn it. If he could get one around Florida, he probably would too. So get out there and vote for Mr. Andrew Gillum. Don't monkey this up. At a White House dinner held Monday evening that was attended by dozens of conservative, quote-unquote, Christian pastors, ministers, and supporters of his fucked up, disgusting, cheating, lying, bigoted administration, President Benedict Orange, a.k.a. IQ45, a.k.a. Vlad's bitch, he gave a dire warning where he was talking about how high the stakes were in November during, upcoming midterm elections. Get out and vote. Get all these assholes out. Anyway, Dummy said if the Democrats win, they will, quote, overturn everything that we've done, and they'll do it quickly and violently, unquote. So, according to him, if the Democrats win all these seats and whatnot, it will be violence in the streets from Democrats. Man, please. If anything, that would be balloons flying, goddamn confetti just coming out the sky. There would be so much love and appreciation for humankind that there would be no violence. As a matter of fact, I really and truly believe that your own supporters will be dancing in the goddamn street singing ding dong, the orange bitch is dead, because they know that when the Democrats take over, and by the way, I'm not a Democrat. Some of them I can't stand. Both sides are full of shit, but I digress. They know once the Democrats take over, your ass is gone. And not just out the White House, your ass is going to jail. In the words of Bart Scott, can't wait. So, anyways, he goes on to say that, quote, if you look at what happens, there's a lot of unnecessary violence all over the world, but also in this country, and I don't want to see it. And then he went on to, mention Antifa and how they're violent. But there were such good people in Charlottesville. Fucking figures. So make sure, once again, Y'all get out and vote. This motherfucker's running scared. He knows that his time is coming, and we need him gone. And that's just the bottom line. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around for this week's episode of Colonizer Nonsense. My first Colonizer Nonsense moment takes me to my home state of Mississippi and the city of Flowood. And on a side note, damn Mississippi, come on. Now, this is an old one, a couple weeks ago, but I've been out, so fuck it, bear with me. Headline: Mississippi hospital employee fired after hurling racial slur at a donut shop. A Mississippi Baptist Medical Center employee will now be acquainted with the unemployment line after he was caught on camera hurling a racial slur at an employee. Idiot. Kyle Thomas, or who I like to affectionately refer to as Krispy Kreme Kyle, write that down, then get back at me. He worked in radiology at the hospital, and he was promptly fired after the video started spreading. So in this video, and I don't know what all happened, I don't really care what happened. All I know is he's going back and forth with the cashier. She called him a son of a bitch, and in his rage, he stops at the door and turns around and says, "You're a nigger." Oh, where y'all learn about that shit, man? You're lucky she didn't come across there and beat your ass with a broomstick, but whatever. So she called him a bitch, dared him to say it again, and guess what? He said it again. So, you get what you deserve. So after all of this, takes place, and in a bullshit effort to get out in front of it, Kyle posted on his Facebook post, and he soon deleted the page, but it really didn't matter. But he extended this bullshit for apology. He said, and I quote, "I only hope that by me sharing a public apology in this incident, you could show me some grace. I was upset about another issue and it spilled over into this, and I can't apologize enough." So basically what I get from that is, yeah, I said it, please don't get me fired. I was mad at the world and took it out on this black chick. Nah, fuck you. But this is not only the fucked up part about this Colonizer Nonsense moment. Was even more disheartening is for you bootlicking coons who said that she deserved it. Man, I could not believe how many people said because she called him a son of a bitch that she deserved to be called a nigger. You have got to be fucking kidding me. So to all of you who felt that, fuck you, you are an idiot. And you can come at me all you want, but I'm not gonna go back and forth with none of you. I refuse to debate with niggas who Harriet Tubman would have shot. My next Colonizer Nonsense moment takes me to the state of Florida and the city of West Palm Beach. Headline: Florida judge retires after calling attorney a gorilla. First of all, white people, listen. You gotta stop using, the term monkey, gorilla, and things of that nature, and not expect people to get on your ass. Stop the bullshit like you don't know what that term means and the connotation of the word. So cut the bullshit out. We own you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let me move on. A Florida judge abruptly retired after calling a black defense attorney a gorilla during a court hearing. Now, before I move on, let me just say, if this motherfucker is calling an attorney a gorilla, you really have to wonder how he felt about the niggas who was before him. But moving on, public defender Carrie Hotwhite tells the Palm Beach Post that Judge Peter Evans uttered the words so quickly and innocuously that the assistant public defender Sheldon Graves didn't even hear it. It was reported because an unidentified person reported the slur to Chief Circuit Judge Krista Marks, who listened to the tape of the 6-minute hearing where Evans referred to Graves as the other guerrilla defense counsel. Now, Judge Marks told the newspaper that Evans was contrite. Yeah, of course he was, when they discussed it, and they both recognized that the slur was a quote-unquote career ender. Well, obviously it was, but he really didn't give a fuck as to seeing he only had 6 months left. But here's the kicker about the whole damn thing. Evans, who is white, was the lone judge in a predominantly black community. So, honestly, if I was before that judge, I would seriously try to get them to go back and review my case, look at every goddamn thing he's done, because I don't believe this is a one-off incident, and neither should you. I would try to get my shit adjudicated, tossed out, any other goddamn thing I could, because that motherfucker was full of shit. Now, my final moment, and this is very disturbing. This, the white supremacists are out of goddamn control, and they all deserve to die. Headline: Man admits to burning black man alive in letter to white supremacists. Now, this story takes me to Rutherford County, Tennessee. Tennessee authorities already had John Carruthers in custody and charged him with the murder for reportedly burning a black man alive. Now, they all already knew he had been previously convicted of one murder and pleaded guilty to lesser charges in another, but they couldn't figure out why he allegedly committed the crime. Well, they found out because they intercepted a letter from this racist, inbred piece of shit. And he wrote in this letter, and I quote, "My brothers in Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord." That's how the letter began. And it was also written in barely legible chicken scratch, preferred by white supremacists and inbred Donald Trump voters everywhere. But I digress. He continues, "My name is John Carruthers, and I believe the Bible is about white people and for white people. I am in the Rutherford County Jail for burning a black man. I set him on fire with lighter fluid poured on his head." Wow. Now, the 53-year-old Carruthers was arrested on March 17th for the murder of Robert Miller, a black man who lived with Carruthers in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, home for veterans. Wow. Now, listen, please don't waste any taxpayers' money on this motherfucker, man. Matter of fact, just burn his ass alive and just call it a day. I'm pretty sure if the government don't want to do it, I know 2 or 3 motherfuckers who will willingly drive up there to burn his ass alive. Because he don't deserve to live. He's a piece of shit. And there is no justification for anything that he said or done. So, man, wow. And, he just touches on another train of thought that, they have used the Bible, the name of God, and in the name of the Holy Bible to wage war against all people, blacks, Indians, whomever. And it's still no different today, I see. So, with that being said, fuck him. I hope he rots in hell. I hope they burn him alive, or at the very least, put his ass in general population with the angriest, blackest motherfuckers alive so they can teach his ass a lesson. And that pretty much sums up Colonizer nonsense for this week. I'm pretty sure they gonna do some other shit, so we'll talk about it again next week. This week, we recognize the birthday of the legend, the quintessential entertainer, the best entertainer of all time, the king of pop, Mr. Michael Joseph Jackson. His birthday was August the 29th. He was born in 1958. And, you know, Mike just left a I wouldn't call it a stain, his imprint on the music world. I mean, he was unfucking touchable. I don't care who you stack up against Mike, I ain't going. Mike gonna always be number one. I don't give a fuck what y'all say. Man, I mean, he had so many classic records, so many fucking hits. I mean, his accolades could just, you know, I could just run down his accolades, you know, and it will blow your mind. But I have always been a fan of Michael, you know, since I was a kid. You know, Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean, you know, Off the Wall. And actually my favorite Mike song is probably Butterflies, now that I think about it. But, you know, Mike did it in a whole different way. Y'all remember when I can't remember what year it was, but when he came out with that when he premiered his video, you know, Mike with Eddie Murphy and Iman and all of that, with Magic Johnson, just epic shit. And that's who Mike was. Mike was just an epic individual, from, you know, busting out the moonwalk on TV to even when his hair got caught on fire doing that goddamn Pepsi commercial. That was still some epic ass shit. Super Bowl performances, all of that. That's who Mike was. Mike was just an entertainer, the entertainer. And, you know, he still has millions and millions of fans all across the world who still love him, who adore him, who will fight your ass if you talk bad about him. And, you know, there is some bad shit you can say about Mike, but this ain't the time or place. I'll be shady on some other time. But today, on this podcast, we're celebrating the life, the musical legacy, even the film legacy with Moonwalk. You know, I love that shit too, of Michael Jackson. You know, he legends, you know, which he was, legends will never die. Even now, Mike's been gone years, and, you know, he's still the king. He still reigns supreme. Hell, Drake brought him out on 2 of the songs on his album right after Joe Jackson died. So even in death, Joe got his ass working. But, you know, that is what it is. So happy birthday, Michael Jackson. Continue to rest on, and we'll continue to listen and love and enjoy your music. Now, we talk about the birthday of the king of pop. I also want to talk about the queen of soul. As of this recording, they are having the funeral for Miss Aretha Franklin, who sung the soundtrack to the civil rights movement. Man, first of all, did y'all see the picture of her in the casket with her feet crossed with them red shoes on? Nigga, that is some ice cold shit. Like, you know, that's something only you know, a queen would do. That was fit for a queen. That was fit for somebody as outspoken, you know, as Aretha. And, you know, y'all know she could throw shade with the best of them too. And, you know, I was watching some of her funeral, and then I fell asleep and thought I missed something, and I woke up and the motherfucker was still going. I mean, you had a laundry list of performers, from goddamn Yolanda Adams to Marvin Sapp, Smokey, Stevie, Fantasia, Ariana Grande, Taco Bell, Faith Hill, which why man, just why? You had classical music, you had choirs, you had Yeah, I mean, you had so much going on at that funeral. If you didn't get a chance to see it, I'm pretty sure it'll be on YouTube. It'll be various clips running around. You can go check it out. Make sure you well rested and hydrated and got food on your stomach, because it's long as a motherfucker. Very long. I think Clinton might have passed out twice. And by the way, talking of that funeral, I wish you people would stop calling that man the first black president, because he ain't. The end. Shit. But anyway, back to the funeral. Like I said, it was a celebration, fit for a queen. It was for her. They had the pink Cadillacs outside. They had so much going on, and it was beautiful. It was tiring, but it was a beautiful ceremony, and she deserved it. That's the thing. All the pomp and circumstance, she deserved it. And as much as we talk about the length of that funeral, it was still better than the VH1 Awards, the AMA Awards, Country Music Awards, definitely the BET Awards. It's better than the Royal Wedding. It was a big TV moment, a celebration of life. Not of her death, but of her life. So, rest in heaven, Queen Aretha Franklin. I'm pretty sure Jesus up there waiting on you, but that funeral holding you up. So, rest on, and just like I said with Mike, we will continue to listen, love, and enjoy your music. So the NFL wrapped up its preseason, and we have about a week before the regular season starts. And that's exciting for a bunch of people, but that's not the biggest news coming out the NFL. It's not about who got cut, who made the team, who got hurt. Right now it's not about any of that. Right now, it's all about motherfuckers getting paid. And this segment is the get paid edition, because everybody I'm talking about today getting paid or about to get paid. So let me start off with the one who's most important to me in my eyes, and that's none other than Mr. Colin Kaepernick, who, by the way, still doesn't have a job, but we know why. Well, anyway, for those of you who don't like him, for those of you who are mad about what he did, first and foremost, fuck you. But he's not going away. On Thursday, his collusion grievance against the NFL was continued when an arbitrator declined to dismiss the case after a request for a summary judgment by the league. So basically, what this means for Colin is that the arbitrator weighed the current evidence and essentially told the NFL that in its opinion of Cap not meeting a standard for collusion didn't hold up. Basically, they seeing smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire. So this is a big win for Cap right now. And I'm glad too, because first of all, fuck Trump, and you too, Jerry Jones, fuck you. So those two running their mouths probably gave him all the extra ammo he needed. And then you add the fact that John Elway spoke about a deposition when he shouldn't have. That further bolstered his case. So, Colin, man, I hope you break the bank on their ass. I hope you get a record judgment and pay and continue to live your life and have the funds and means to be the activist that you chose to be, and keep getting it in. Speaking of getting it in, Aaron Rodgers AR-12, A-Rod, the star quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, he just became the highest paid player in the National Football League for a second time in his career. Twice. And if he continues to play at a high level and don't get hurt, it probably won't be the last time he gets a big payday. But anyways, A-Rod and the Packers agreed to a 4-year, $134 million contract extension that can be worth up to $180 million if he hits all of his incentives. Yikes. Wow. Now, A-Rod got $67 million in guaranteed money by the end of this calendar year. So before January 1st, this motherfucker would have gotten $67 million. But that's not it. Eventually, the total would jump up to $80 million by the start of the new league year in March. On March 17th, 2019, A-Rod to get another $13 million. Shit. So this deal will keep him in Green Bay for a long time, up until 2023 when he's 40 years old. Also, speaking of getting paid big time, AD 99, Aaron Donald, the star-stud defensive tackle of the Los Angeles Rams, after weeks of speculation, after weeks of holding out, after shit coming out in the news, he finally got broke off. And he got broke off big. The Rams signed AD to a lucrative 6-year contract extension worth $135 million with $87 million guaranteed. Whew, shit. He will receive a $40 million signing bonus and is under contract for 7 years at $141 million. Now, his contract establishes new ground as the richest deal for a defensive player in league history. Get that money, bro. Get it. That record was previously set by Denver Broncos All-Pro pass rusher, outside linebacker Von Miller, who at the time had a 6-year, $114.5 million deal. So, damn, get paid. And finally, everybody's favorite flaming pass-catching wide receiver, New York Giants All-Pro Odell Beckham Jr. has agreed to a contract with the Giants, reportedly worth a record 5-year, $95 million. 5 years, $95 million. And with this $95 million, $65 million of it is guaranteed. Now, after the news broke, Odell Beckham's teammate, Roger Lewis, he shared a video of them celebrating in the locker room, dancing. And as always, this nigga gotta do some sus shit. The camera quickly flashed to him half-naked hugging, and at first it looked like he kissed him on the cheek, but he was just talking in the man's ear. But still, Odell, the optics just never look good when you do shit, man. And finally, in non-NFL news, I talked about the Queen of Soul earlier. Well, let me talk about the Queen of Tennis, the Queen of Sports, the GOAT herself, Miss Serena Williams, who is known for wearing a cat suit. Well, the French Open president or whoever he is came out and said that it would no longer be allowed. And the crazy part about it is that it was allowed before. I forget the white girl's name, but she wore one, and it wasn't a big deal, but it's a big deal now because of all that ass, I guess. But the thing about it, the cat suit wasn't just for fashion. It was specially designed for her because of pulmonary embolisms that she suffered after the birth of her child. So, it's fucked up, but it is what it is. You know, when you can't stop them on the court, you try to slow them down any way you can. And in true queen fashion, she hit that bitch in a tutu and still kicked ass. So, get it in how you get it in, Serena. We all back you. Well, it's the sports rundown for this week. I'll catch you next week. Well, we've come to the end of another podcast episode, and I know y'all probably sick of hearing my goddamn voice. This podcast is kind of long, and not quite long as Aretha's funeral, but long nonetheless. And I hope you stuck around to listen to me continue to go on and on about the shit that interests me, because I think it's interesting to you. Now, before I get out of here, I just want to send a major shout out to my Black with No Chaser family. We got a lot of things coming up. You know, website, original content, radio station, podcast, all types of shit going on, documentaries. And, you know, we are here for you. And we will continue to fight a good fight to help create opportunity and education and enlightenment all across the diaspora. Matter of fact, like and follow us on Facebook, Black with No Chaser. Find us on Instagram at Black with No Chaser. Find us on Twitter, Black No Chaser as well. I also like to send a shout out to our sister group, MMIG. That's Melanated Millennials Investment Group. And we too have a lot of things coming up for the community. We are a community-based organization that's dedicated to improving the financial health, wealth, and literacy of our people. We got a mixer upcoming on September the 22nd in Jackson, Mississippi. So please, if you hadn't got tickets yet, get those tickets. It'll be a very informative and exciting event. If you don't know how to do it, go to the homepage on Facebook, MMIG. You can also contact anybody from Black with No Chaser. We can definitely get you lined up. You can holler at Quan Garvey. You can holler at Miss Nett Smith. It is a very worthwhile thing to get involved with, and I implore all of you, who's serious about their financial future to get involved, because big things are coming. We have workshops planned. We have, classes planned. We have a lot of things planned that's free and for the community. So get involved. Don't be reactive. Be proactive for your future as well as the future of your children and other people. So that's MMIG. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. Also, before I go, I just want to once again say happy birthday to the king of pop, Mr. Michael Jackson. We're going to rock with you all night, moonwalking, whatever else you feel like. And shout out, rest in heaven to him, as well as the queen of soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. You will be missed. You are loved. And we just appreciate everything you did for the culture. Now, for my Mississippi folks, specifically my Hattiesburg folks, make sure you get by and holler at my cousin, Vicky Lane's Bar and Grill, over in the old Wars building on Highway 42 bypass. She got a lot of good things going on over there. Make sure you get by there. Those Cajun lemon pepper wings, the bomb.com with the steak and shrimp, the burgers, the chops, the home cooked meals, the breakfast. Make sure you get your ass by there. You tell her cousin TK from Shade and Shit Talking sent you, and she gonna tighten you up real good. Speaking of family, I also holler at my family over at Southern Colonel's Popcorn. Eat popcorn, be happy. They also deliver online, so you can go online and make your big order and enjoy the multitude of flavors that they have. Now, as always, we talk about black businesses, support black businesses, support our own, and, do things to improve the health, wealth, and financial stability of our communities, fight gentrification, fight colonization. So with that being said, I thank you for tuning in. I hope to have you back with me next week, and I will see you then.
Oh, thank you.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.